Welcome to another edition of SchoolOwnerTalk.com. Now here's your host, Dwayne and Allie.
Hello, Dwayne Brummett here with Allie Alberigo, SchoolOwnerTalk.com. Allie, great to be with you, sir.
Yes, sir. It's great to be with you always. I try to get you to wear pink polka dotted shirts because we usually dress the same, right? And I said, hey, Dwayne, what are you wearing today? I'm wearing pink polka dots with a hair bun, kidding around. Obviously, you either one didn't see that message or you knew I was kidding, right?
Yeah, honestly, I didn't see it. Did you Facebook it to me?
I did. I Facebooked it to you.
Okay, yeah. Sorry, I didn't see it.
That's okay, no problem. But we're in different colors today, which is great. So that we normally dress alike and people think that we coordinate outfits.
We got spring colors. We look good.
Exactly. Absolutely, man. So today is interesting, right? We have a good call, right?
Yeah, well, we decided at the beginning of the year, I prompted it, but you were definitely a go, is, doing a book a month and then, talking about that book and how we're going to apply it to, our schools and that type of stuff. So we read Getting Things Done, The Art of Stress-Free Productivity by David Allen. He's also a black belt, by the way.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
That's cool.
And, I know it's a New York Times best-selling author, but I had a tough time finishing the book. How about you?
Yeah, I did too. But first, as an author, both of us are authors. We've written books, so the waiver should be like for us. There are different levels where people are when they read things. Right? Depends on. Like for me, I might read a book and hate it, and then 6 years later read it again and think it was the best book ever. But this book was very difficult for me to get through. I had a hard time, but I think it's because of you and I, how we already have read this type of material 20, 30 times in different ways before. And it was like reading, the same thing, but it was very clinically written too. It didn't.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It was very cranial, and I just don't know that I'm that smart or that type of writing keeps my attention long enough.
Yeah, you know what? There's ways to, like, when you read fiction books, like any fiction stuff, like vampire or superhero stuff. I started reading them so I could go to sleep at night. Because if I read business stuff, I'm dreaming about business.
Yeah.
And I have these nightmares sometimes about like everything in my school that I control, like breaking out of control. Kids are like spitting on the mats and parents are smoking in the lobby. And, like anything that I always control, it breaks free in my dreams. So I started reading a lot of fiction before I go to sleep. So you have one that you're reading or?
Well, yeah, I don't do a lot of fiction. I haven't started it yet, but it's Bill O'Reilly's new book, Killing the Mob.
Loved his stuff. You recommended me to his books years ago, and I read almost every one. Killing the Rising Sun, Killing Kennedy, Killing Reagan. They're amazing.
Yeah, Killing Lincoln. Also,
yeah.
The one right before this was Killing Crazy Horse. Really, really good.
Oh, yeah?
Yep.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he goes back in time, and he recreates history based on his research versus what was written at the time to look a certain way, and he recreates he tries to, or at least he does a good job at recreating history of what it really was, right? That's how he's
well, not and I wouldn't say recreating history, but yeah, I mean,
what we know of as history, right?
Yep. So I don't know that fits what you're talking about, because that's actual, stuff that's happened.
Yeah.
But yeah,
no, mine are more like, like I'll read, like my buddy Mike Ewart, another martial artist. He writes all these fantasy stories about vampires and things like that. So I like that kind of stuff as well. But the reason why I brought that up was sometimes books are, the author tries to spell everything out. It doesn't leave any room for imagination, right? So I think, like you said, it was very cranial, this book that we read. It was too much description, like too much detail on things that you and I I know I was saying, I already know that. Just let's get over it. Let's move on. That I don't need to hear all the explanations and so on and so forth. Right. So it drove me crazy, but it was a time management 101, I thought. And like you said too, right? You said, what did you like about it is how he dialed in, right? You were telling me before.
Yeah. So, obviously, I think the thing that I picked up the most out of the book was, not only did he talk about time management, but then he went the next level underneath it with regards to prioritizing the actions
Right.
of different things. And so I thought that piece was really interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say other than that, and I'm not doing him justice because, like you said, we've read personal development books, we've listened to seminars,
Right.
we've done, audio books and stuff like that on this very topic to a certain degree. This is just a little bit of a twist.
Yeah.
Um,
I think that if people they're not good at time management and have never read books on time management or don't know how to break time management down, this is a great book for them. Now, like for myself, I've done, Stephen Covey seminars, time management seminars, read books like First Things First. And by the way, what you were talking about is what Tony Robbins describes as a map, a massive action plan. So sometimes people think that they're managing their goals and their time by just writing it down. Like, for example, in my day timer, which is this Franklin Covey day timer, I put down I woke up at 7:30. I had my coffee, I worked at the desk until I went to the diner, and then I had a call with my coaching clients and things like that, and then now I'm doing the show with you and I'm balancing my checkbooks. Like, I write out tasks, but I don't necessarily need to prioritize them in order because I'm going to bang through all of those like that. So for people who have a hard time with managing time, they might say, what are the top 3 tasks? What are the next tasks? What are the third tasks? And it would be like A, B, C quality. And then, that's your massive action plan, your map. How do you get things done? What are you going to do? Right. And you were saying that.
Yeah, and I do mine digitally.
Mm-hmm.
So I have it all digitally there,
Right.
what my tasks are for the day, and I just know they have to be completed
Yeah.
today. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And
And you're
my appointments are in there too, but
well, that you see now. Here's the difference between you and I. Like, I have a student who's a contractor / handyman, and even my partner in the website business that they don't know how to rise their bottom tasks to the top. So what I mean by that is, like, you have an A priority, a B priority, and a C priority. A you're going to get done first, B second, and C third. So a lot of times my student and my partner will do the A priority and the B priority, and then they're done for the day. And then they put another A priority and a B priority, and that C priority just stays there forever. I mean, months at a time. Like, so my one student, his name is Greg, and him and I work on time management. He's part of my teaching team and he's in the leadership. I was explaining to him, like, you can't have a C priority for more than a few days. That C priority has to rise to the top. Yep. And I had said to him, I said, you're supposed to do a job for me that you haven't done since June of last year. You can't tell me that in an entire year that my task never rose to the top, or else you're just keeping it in the lowest priority. You have to make your low priorities a high priority every week on a regular basis, or else they're just going to stay undone forever. And I think that's what he did a good job at in this book, was explaining how to take those priorities and manage the tasks and break them down.
Yeah. Yeah. And, look, I would also say the priorities shift depending on where you are in your business and personal life as well. Like, if I had to go back and do things, there's things that I put as A priorities,
right?
And things that I had as C priorities. Mm-hmm. And some of those C priorities should have been A.
Right. Now, here's the problem with task management is that people who are inexperienced with it take the most painful things and ignore them. Right? When we know as owners, we need to take the most painful things and accomplish them. So very often tasks will be easier. Like, you want to do a list of things to do, things that you enjoy that give you fulfillment, that aren't stressful, will get done first. But cleaning the dog poop in the backyard might not get done for weeks because you've been ignoring it, but you're going to do the laundry or, watch that TV show, whatever it is, the easier tasks. And my staff was like that too. I'd have to always constantly align their priorities. And then we're going to talk about this too on the 20 top tasks. And I'll explain, and this is how we organize both we organize our team stuff. But so I think that people tend to always take the hardest things and leave them, or the least favorite, or the things they like the least, they do them the slowest. They will wait on those things. I'm trying to think of the word They won't procrastinate. They'll procrastinate and not prioritize because they're the least likely things that they want to do. So, right.
Well,
so
that's human nature. We all fall into that category, right?
Yes. Yeah, we always do. Yeah, like, look, like my daughter in the martial arts, she doesn't love grappling. She doesn't love sparring. So what are the things she avoids the most? Grappling and sparring. It's the same thing with my students. If on the week it says sparring week, you'll see a certain segment of the population just don't come because they don't like sparring. What their parents should be doing and what they should be doing. And by the way, that word should is a funny word. I remember John Graydon once said to me, Ali, if you keep shoulding people, you're going to should all over yourself. Like that kind of thing. And, if they don't come to class and avoid those things, they're never going to improve. And they're always going to be at the C priority list. And that's pretty dangerous.
Yeah. And I'll say the very first book we did this year, Who Not How by Dan Sullivan.
Great book.
Dan Sullivan talks about procrastination. And what he talks about with regards to procrastination is he goes, and I'm going to paraphrase, but basically as an entrepreneur, anything that you are procrastinating on is the number one thing that you should probably be doing.
Yeah, that's absolutely true.
Yeah, he talks about procrastination actually being the radar, right, to tell you what to do next.
Well, I like that. I'm going to write that down. That's a great quote.
So, and then the other piece to that is, the obstacle is the way.
Right. All right. I love it.
Right. It is. The obstacle is the way. And so we have a tendency to, want to do the easy stuff because we want to feel good about, I got 10 tasks done, but that 11th one that really was the obstacle. Right. There you go. Say that. What is that? Procrastination
is the radar toward what you should do next. Yeah.
Yep.
So, you're right, though. That's true, though. Isn't that amazing? Like, even with our students physically, isn't that always the case? They don't want to spar. They won't, or they're afraid of testing, so they'll not show up, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah. So, here's a couple of things that I've been doing with my students is I've been taking that concept. And I got this phrase from Grandmaster Hafner, but he talks about that I can do hard things. So what he talks about is that phrase, I can do hard things. And so especially with my white belts when they're first starting out, I let them know that you can do hard things, and I get them to repeat that. I can do hard things. Because I want them to know that they need to develop that grit, that tenacity, if you will, in order to get where it is that where they want to go. And in order to do that, sometimes you need key phrases, and you need different things to kind of motivate that person or encourage that person. So again, the obstacle is the way, but for the kids, I'm telling them I can do hard things. Yeah. And I'm getting them to repeat that over and over again. I can do hard things.
And isn't it interesting, though? And I don't mean to be negative in any way, but I just feel like society lately has become so accustomed to getting the easy things, and everything is quick and easy, that people don't want to put the work in. So even when I'm coaching a martial arts school, I tend to kind of have to continuously go over the same thing over and over. Hey, did you do your posting on social media? No, I didn't get around to it. Did you do that task on what we were supposed to do? No, I didn't get around to it. And I'm like, these are the reasons why you need to get this stuff done. Like, I just had a client just the other day. He canceled his appointment because he didn't do his week's worth of stuff. And I'm like, but a whole week has gone by and they're complaining about why they're not moving forward. And I'm like, look, you have a whole entire week. There's 168 hours. You got to be able to find 5 hours to work on the tasks that are going to move you forward. And by the way, I call that time slicing. And if anyone who's listening wants a copy of my little time slicing article, just write time slicing in the Facebook post on this podcast. But I have a picture of a pizza, and imagine trying to hold the pizza up without it being sliced and eat the entire pie. And it's a flexible, soft pie, and it's impossible. So we cut it up in 8 slices. What do we do for kids' birthday parties? We cut it up in 16 slices, right? So it's even more manageable. So how do we do our tasks? And sometimes people don't time slice their tasks into small, easily manageable activities so that they can have success continuously till the end of the day or the end of the week or the end of the month. That task is totally complete.
Right. Well, all it is just well, I call it time blocking. You call it time slicing.
Right.
But the concept of making small appointments with yourself in order to achieve whatever goal or task that you have during that time frame.
Right. So
and being very, very aware that is the time that you've set aside to get X, Y, or Z done. And not allowing any other crap to come into that.
That is a big one. That what you just said is probably the most important thing, is allowing yourself to be uninterrupted while engaging in a task. Like, for example, someone I know quite close to me that we share a business together, they are constantly like, hey, we're supposed to get this thing done. How did that go? Oh, well, and every excuse, I call it in the book, is listed as a reason why it's justified that they didn't get their task done. And I'm going like, yeah, I guess if that's the way you're going to do it week after week after week after week. And then it literally comes month after month after month. And they're able to justify their lack of action or their indecision with being able to stay on task for X amount of hours. With all the fires, like in the Stephen Covey's book, The 7 Habits, I think it is. He talks about being able to make sure that you take care of the priority tasks that are going to move you forward in life. All the other things that come up, unknown things that come up, are what they call mini fires. You got to put them out, or else the house will burn down. But you can't stay and now get distracted like in that Disney cartoon where it's like Dory and they're off, like bear or squirrel, whatever it is. And then they're on something else. I know so many people that can't stay focused for periods of time. It's like what I call online onset ADD.
Yeah, well, and if that's the case, maybe you do need some medication, really.
Possibly that could be the case. I don't disagree with you. Or like, it's funny, I had a program manager, and we're going to kind of move into the segue in a minute, but I had a program manager that one time, every time I'd come in, the office was like explosions went off, papers here and there, spread everywhere you could spread on the floor. And I'd go, finally I got fed up, and I said to her, what do you have, ADD? In a joking way. And she said, no, but she said, in fact, I've been meaning to tell you that I do. So I'm like, well, if you would have told me that months ago, I could fix this for you immediately right now. She said, oh, yeah? And I said, yeah, take everything you have right now and put it in a pile. And then she gathered it all up. And it took like 15 minutes because, no joke, there's papers on the floor in piles and everything. I said, now, you have them in piles already. Like there's 20 different piles of things that need to be done for each priority. Now they're in one pile. Work from the top down. Do not go to the bottom. Don't go in the middle. I want you to just start on the top thing, get it done. Go to the next one, get it done. And then this is your completed file. That literally changed her life because the clutter went away. Her ADD that made her try to focus on one thing but distracted her, because it was even worse now that she made piles everywhere. She didn't know what pile to go to. And then this pile distracted her to that pile. So I said, just work from the top down. And she did. And now she became a production maven, and she was really getting a lot done.
Well, and I think also too with that, you gave her the freedom to focus on one thing at a time. Right. Where before, you got this mess here, you got this mess there, you got that mess there, and you know that well, I should be doing this, but I still have this, and so yeah.
Exactly. And you know what's interesting? That's what we're going to talk about. Like our task, it says the DNA, the daily necessary activities or the makeup of the school. What are the top tasks? So if you were to list like a top 3 tasks, what would you say they were?
So let me make sure I clarify this. We're talking about tasks.
Running a school day to day.
Okay. Because I know like one. one of the things I was going to say as an owner is, one of your daily tasks should be, improvement, self-improvement
Okay.
time. So, whatever it is that you need to be working on, if you need to work on your public speaking, if you need to work on, your Facebook ad, although you should just go ahead and maybe
Hire someone.
hire somebody to do that, or I guess you could learn how to do it yourself too, right?
Yeah.
So whatever it is that you need to be working on, you need to block out time, even if it's 5 minutes a day or 10 minutes a day, but you need to focus on learning how to do that better. So that would be my first recommendation or first task, for a school owner.
And I love I wouldn't have even thought of that, because I'm not even thinking in regards of myself. I'm thinking of my school. But I love what you're saying, because over the quarantine, I started taking guitar lessons again. You can see around me on the walls are guitars everywhere, right, and that kind of thing. But I hadn't played for years and years and years. So I kind of quit playing guitar, and I legitimately forgot how to play guitar. I could do the basics, but I really didn't become a decent guitar player. Couldn't play anymore. So I started taking lessons, and that's my thing. I'm improving. When I play the guitar, I just want to make myself a better player for my own behalf. It has no value to it whatsoever. I could play for my family. I could maybe jam with a band if I ever had the opportunity, but it's not going to make me richer or more. It literally is an addiction for me, and it's a relaxation.
Sure.
The other day I fell asleep, and I'm on the couch asleep with my guitar and my pick in hand, and Nicole said something, and I'm like, because I play all the time, and I play electric, so they can't hear it while we're watching television or whatever. But I think, though, that self-improvement is an overlooked category. Don't you agree? People get fat, they get out of shape, they stop training, all those things. They don't look at themselves. They put the other stuff ahead of it.
Well, here's the thing. Your business will never outgrow you.
Right.
And so if you cap out at a 5 on, let's say, a scale from 1 to 10 on personal development, if you cap out at a 5, your business will only ever get to a 5. If it happens to get to a 6, it's going to be horrible.
Right.
Because you're not even a 6.
Right.
And so you have to keep moving up in that ladder of personal development, so that your business, your staff, your students, everybody else can rise.
Right.
They're not going to rise any higher than what you are.
And you know what, too, you're right. And what you said, you'll become a 6, but then you'll slowly be bumped back down to where you're comfortable. And I did a seminar many, many, many years ago called Layers. A school gets from 0 to 30 students, and they stick it, right? And they stay there, and then they grow to 40 and 50, but then they drop to 30 again, until they finally are able to learn how to stick 50. And then they get to 75, and then up and down, bouncing back and forth until they learn how to maintain 75. And it keeps going like that quite some time. So I think that that's an interesting thing. But
Well, wouldn't you say, and this isn't the topic, but let's just go here real quick. Wouldn't you say from 0 to 99 is a personality problem? Once you hit 100 to 200, that's more of a systems problem. Because what I'm saying is, you can get 100 students easily if you have the right personality. Once you want to move from 100 to 200, your personality, yes, is going to attract people, but in order to make sure that everything is running smoothly, that's a systems problem.
Yeah, I would say that's pretty accurate.
You see where I'm going with that idea?
I definitely do, because I had a teacher that was just the phenomenal martial artist, beyond. And he had 300-400 students back in the 80s. And some of the people he mistreated. He had no business practices. People wouldn't pay. They would take things. They would, and his business practices brought him down, but he always was so popular that he'd always have people coming through the door, but he never made a penny. I mean, he was broke and where he should have been, wealthy, right? So that's right. That, definitely there are certain levels of the systems that, that help an owner grow, and you need to maintain or grow those skills.
And I'm generically putting things in a box, but you can kind of see where I'm going with that.
Oh,
and
definitely.
Then I would say from 200 to 300, that's really more of a communication problem. So, you know, you can only go so far with your personality. You can only go so far with your systems. And I know some of this overlaps. And then, you know, to move to the next level is really communication issues where, you know, how am I communicating to my constituents, you know, my students? How do I communicate to my staff? Because they need to grow too, because you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so,
definitely.
And again, I'm just kind of simplifying that without really dialing it in, but you can kind of see where I'm going.
So we were like years ago, you know, and I'm in it, like, again, it's funny because I mentioned this a bunch of times where you had said to me, hey, Allie, there was a guy who posted on our page and he said, why would you listen to Allie when he just closed one of his schools? And you're like, should I post it? And I bring it up often because people don't know, like, you know, I didn't close one of my schools. I moved it and brought it to my other location. Like if I moved it down the road, they wouldn't say, oh my God, he moved his school. But because I moved it to my other school and now I have one instead of two locations, but the same students, they look at it as a failure, or they wanted to bring that up like I did something wrong. But in my life, you know, all along, I used to have 12 locations. And then my daughter was born. And I'm like, I don't want to travel every weekend to a different place, sometimes during the week, to be able to visit all these schools. And I want to be with my daughter. And as I started to scale back, people got mad at me because they were jealous. They wanted to be with me, or they were angry that I couldn't share my time with them. But I made a decision for my own well-being and for my daughter. So that it depends on where you're at in your life. A school owner, you know, that's why success is not measured in money only. There might be a guy, an old school teacher, he wants to teach 20 people 2-3 days a week, and he wants to do it hardcore old school, and that's his deal, and that's it. That's all he's going to do. So sometimes people, you know, will have different reasons to do what they do. We can't judge them based on that. But here's the thing. When I ran my school, I had to make sure that all the boxes got ticked. So in other words, I would quite often tell my program managers what to do. And here's the problem with not knowing what to do. That old saying that we used to say, you don't know what you don't know. Like we had a great interview with Master Sell. And I had said that they should, and I sent him my copy of the DNA, because if many of the school owners that I coach that are on Spark, they're utilizing like 25% of what Spark's capability is. They don't realize if they took enough time just to learn the software every week, just learned one of their tasks. And Spark, they have training, they have, you know, people who will teach them, they have videos, they have articles. If you just took one task like the automations and learned how to do that, you know how much better your life would be?
Well, it's just that principle with Abraham Lincoln. You sharpen the axe.
Right.
You take the time, you sharpen the axe, and then you go and cut the tree. And the tree is going to come down a lot faster, a lot easier when you take, you know, the half a day to sharpen the axe or whatever it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah. We need sometimes a half hour.
Yeah.
Right. You know, I used to own a landscape business, and my guys would neglect to sharpen the lawnmower blades. So the lawns would look terrible because they weren't cut. They were torn. And then people would be like, my lawn is brown. And I'd have to go there and I'd go, oh, it's because my guys didn't sharpen the blades. You know, so like, it's so true. So I think, and we've suggested this numerous times, that people should take that. That's where that self-improvement that you mentioned comes in, where it's so essential to take that time to become better. Now, like for me on Spark, I've been doing trainings with Amy. She's amazing over there, on just to make sure that I have all my automations and all my triggers and everything done correctly so that it'll work for me, you know, perfectly.
Well, yeah, I mean, okay, so when we teach our martial arts to our students,
right,
it is a just-in-time learning model.
Right.
They don't need to know how to do the jump spin back kick until they know how to do the side kick, and then they can learn how to do the back kick, and then so it's a just-in-time learning model. Well, the problem with school owners is when we're opening up a school, most of us open up a school because we were really good at martial arts, or we loved teaching, or whatever it was, right? And but we didn't know what we didn't know.
Right.
And so that therein lies the problem, where sometimes we don't know what we should be learning next.
Right.
And that's why it's important to have a coach or some sort of mastermind group or some sort of, group that you're involved with, that can, and then you're talking about your constraints or your, obstacles that you need to overcome. And then, the person says to you, oh, okay, I see where you're at. This is what I was there 3 years ago, and this is how I overcame that. Or this is the book that I read, or this is the course that I studied, whatever it is.
Right.
And so for school owners, it's a just-in-time learning model. The problem is we don't know what we need to be learning just in time.
Right. So here's a story. There was a guy who, he was a oil worker, and he worked near the Amazon rainforest. And every day he'd go out and have lunch in the jungle, and then he'd take a nap and come back after his break was over. Until one day they didn't find him. And then a few days went by, they searched for him. And then they found this massive boa constrictor, and it got eaten by the boa constrictor. And they cut it open, and there he was. He never learned because he didn't know what he didn't know, I guess. I mean, maybe you could just say that's common sense in the Amazon rainforest, but he ended up falling asleep and getting eaten by a boa constrictor. So you don't know what you don't know, obviously. Someone had to have warned him. If he was too stupid and didn't yield the warning, then I understand that's his own fault, right? Sure. But if he never knew, now he's boa constrictor food, right?
But aren't we both as school owners?
Yeah.
Sometimes we don't know what we don't know, and we make the mistake.
Not sometimes.
Sometimes, but then there's sometimes that we know it.
Yeah, and we still do.
And we still make the mistake.
Yeah. So when I had my schools, I developed this checklist, because a quick story was when I had a meeting. My program managers, there's 7 of them, called me together for a meeting. They set the meeting up, and then when I got there, they ambushed me, and they had one spokesperson who said to me, so and so is gonna wants to tell you stuff, and they said, number one, we feel that you don't understand how much we do. 2, we feel that you ask too much of us, and 3, you don't understand what takes, how much time it takes, and so on and so forth. So 2 things happened. 1, I immediately fired that person who was the spokesperson. And I said, you should have come to me personally and talked to me. I said, you don't ambush your boss by getting together in force. So I said, you're fired. And I fired her in front of everybody. And then I canceled the meeting. But I did take a lot of the lessons to heart. And I went back and I laid out a thing called the DNA and the daily necessary activities. And I wanted to make sure that I was able to check their work on a day-to-day basis. I had Monday through Friday or Saturday, and I had a list of tasks. And by the way, not every single task is done every single day. So like maybe Monday, and I'm going to pull it up and I'll read to you like some of the tasks that on a Monday I would ask my employees to do. And it was like, number 1, check the messages and return the phone calls. Number 2, confirm trial classes day of and date. And the next day, by the way, a lot of this stuff we do automations now for, right? So we don't have to worry about that. Number 3, return the missed calls, and then also send out postcards on missed trials and missed calls. And then we would do cold leads, 2 to 10 week calls, perfect attendance chart, et cetera, et cetera. And the list goes on. There's like, and they would do it and they would check it. And they would do it and they would check it. So the minute they sat down, my rule of thumb was the minute you sit in your chair and you turn on your monitor, boom, you pull up your DNA and you start on the top task. I mean, boy, let me tell you that was like pulling teeth, because people would start from the bottom up. I'd see that they would do the things that they like best. And I go, no, this is the order. It's in order of priority from top to bottom. And then every day was different. Like Tuesday, the same things would happen, certain things like check messages, confirm trials, cold leads. But now we would do referral calls on Tuesdays. And on Tuesdays, we do birthday cards. And it's only done in the beginning of the month, not at the end. It's one time only, like that. And it might take a day or 2. So I literally had every single day laid out with tasks that needed to be done. So that's what I think is what's missing, because people might have Spark. Well, what do? They have a school and they're doing well, but what do? They don't know the tasks that are priority for them to work on. They're kind of sitting in their chair and hoping that something genius is going to come to them, and that's where we end up staying stagnant.
sometimes that it does if you just sit down and start writing things out, you know.
That's true.
But so we came up with some standard operating procedures with regards to levels of importance. And so this might help, you know, the listeners come up with their tasks based upon levels of importance.
Okay.
And so number one is our staff.
Okay.
So staff members have the highest priority. So if there's something that needs to be done for the staff member, that's done first.
Okay. And what do you mean by done for them? Like what?
Well, you know, if the staff member has a question, has a problem, has a whatever, that is going to be addressed before anything else that day.
Okay.
Second is our storm team. So that's our, you know, that's our
training
people
team
that are learning how to teach.
Got you.
So, you know, they're the next priority. So if a text or an email or whatever comes in through about them, or a phone call or whatever it is, right? Or they're standing in the office, like they get priority.
Right.
Next is our leadership team. After that is all the other students.
Right.
From that, trial students are the next in order.
Mm-hmm.
And then from that, leads and prospects, and then the general public. And so we created those levels of importance. Now, it's not to say that, you know, if I'm working on a lead and prospect and then something comes in for a, you know, let's say a storm team member, that I would drop this and move to that. I mean, you have to have some wherewithal to understand if that is important enough to do that. You may still complete whatever task you were doing for the lead and prospect, and then move to, you know, the storm team member. But
okay,
I always wanted, you know, everybody to understand that there are levels of importance that need to be done, and people do get priority. I mean, if you there's other school owners that I know, there's other friends that I have that are school owners, but I would say in most cases, if not almost all of the cases, you message me, you have priority over them.
Right.
I'm going to answer your question or your response or your phone call quicker than I'm going to do with most other ones. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So why wouldn't I take that? You know, look, if my wife called me, she's got priority.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So why wouldn't I do that same thing when I'm creating priorities in my school?
Right. So with that question being asked, that's a great thing. I love what you just said. And you kind of laid out the things that you're going to do. Now, a lot of school owners may be saying, okay, that's great, Dwayne, but what do I do? Like, what do I do to maintain your top priority of people that need you, which first is your team, your instructors, right? So what are you doing on a day-to-day basis for them? I think that's you could tell me maybe an example or two, but I think that's a question. If people find their priorities, they should then say, okay, this is my priority as students. Now, what are you doing for them? You can't just, right? And so what things do you do?
Yeah, well, weekly meetings is one. Okay. You know, but daily check-ins. So even if it's a, you know, 1 minute, so we got this from the 1 minute manager, right? So even if it's a 1 minute meeting every day, you know, now Mr. Bean and I, my head instructor, he's got priority over everybody. Like I drop everything, you know, I mean, excluding my family, but he's got priority over everybody in that studio. So if he's got a need, I'm going to address that, you know, so much quicker. Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Mr. Bean and I usually have at least a 1 minute meeting every single day, but sometimes it's not 1 minute, you know, but we always do a check-in. Every Wednesday morning, I have a half an hour meeting with him and also Mr. Kent, who we're going to open up that next studio with.
Right.
So we get together for usually at least a half an hour. Sometimes it's 45 minutes, but normally it's just a half an hour. And we physically do that at Mr. Bean's house.
Okay.
Where we sit down and have our coffee. We got our agenda. We do it. I leave and then they stay because the rest of it is their time.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm taking time, you know, to be with them. the other thing is, if I don't have my 1-minute meeting before the classes start with all the instructors, sometimes I'll do it before I leave.
Okay.
You know, so I'll just have my, hey, what's going on? Or even I'll text them and just say, hey, sorry that I wasn't able to talk to you tonight. How did everything go? You know, you got any questions? Thank you very much for your, help tonight, that type of stuff.
Great.
You
Yeah,
know?
I love that. I think that's where I think most schools fail, is that they don't really have an idea of what they should be doing daily to grow their studios, right? So for me, my 3 priorities every day is, number 1, and I love this, by the way. If you're a Spark member, you should be using this. If you're not, maybe you have another software that's doing it. But Spark made it easy. They have the Trial Class Maximizer, which is all the classes that are in your sales funnel, your prospects, people that have come in, showed up, didn't show up. They're all right in that one section. So I focus on that daily. The second thing is my new student maximizer, which is really a really big deal. I utilize that all the time. I'm constantly, within the first 7 months, I have it listed as up to 7 months. I'm constantly saying, hey, Dwayne, how's your little guy liking class? Are you enjoying it? Oh yeah, we love it. It's so much fun. Do you have any questions? And by the way, it's so easy with Spark, with texting, because it has pre-saved messages. So I could have I have general check-in 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So it's not the same thing over and over again. I'll do general check-in 1. I just slide down, drop down menu, click it, and hit send. And it's a personalized message from me, but I don't have to type the whole message every time. So I'm able to bang through the Trial Class Maximizer, then the new student maximizer, and then the missing in action maximizer. Who hasn't been there? You could set the parameter within 24 days or 2 months. And then you see all the people who haven't been coming, and you start conversations with them. So those are the 3 things. Number 1, I'm hitting new students, which is the most important thing. Maintaining them. Number 2, I'm getting the prospects to come in. Are you ready for your class? You didn't show up. If you did, how'd you like it? And the third thing, the ones that aren't showing. We used to mail out cards. We used to make phone calls. Now I could do it all. I could get that all done within the first 3 days of the week. And I do that religiously throughout the week. And it's so much better because my communication is so much better with my clientele.
And your follow-up is so much better and quicker too.
Oh my God. And it's, and easier. Because I used to, if my program managers had this back in the day, it would be just boom, 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 boom. And then I could see whether it's done, and it would be nice and easy. So when I coach clients that have Spark, I'm able to go into their software and say, hey, you're doing a good job but you're missing missing in actions. You didn't do them for 2 weeks, or you didn't do the new students for a week, so that's the kind of thing that we're able to maintain.
Yeah. So the 3 things that a school owner has to do. 1 is they got to market every single day. Right?
Yeah.
You got to market every single day. You got to make sure that you are signing up people every single day.
Right.
And I don't mean every single day you're going to sign somebody up, but you got to have trials coming in. Right. And then that you're retaining students every single day. Yeah. If you just focus on those 3 things, your school's going to grow. Now, the tasks that are inside of each and every one of those are going to be different. Might be, they could be the same for every school, but they're going to be different for every school, because not every school is going to want to do the exact same thing, right? Right. But if you just consistently market, and not just one source, not just Facebook. I mean, needs to be other sources, and we could do a whole call on marketing.
Yeah.
But then your trial onboarding process, you could do a whole call on that. Right. And then your communication and retention after that. You just focus on those 3 things, and you're going to have a successful school. It is not rocket science. When you see a hole or a deficiency, and sometimes it's hard because it's sometimes difficult to read the prescription on the medicine bottle when you're on the inside of it. That's why you need people on the outside, friends or peers or coaches or whatever, to go, hey, you keep saying that this is happening and your retention rate is here. Let's take it, like you do. You say, hey, let's take a look at when you are actually losing people. Right now, you can do that with Spark now.
Yes.
You can see exactly where you're losing people. And then, okay, so who's teaching that class, or, what's being taught in that class?
Yeah.
Or, is there enough variety in that class? Is it disguised enough? I mean, there's different things you need to look at, but I think, we as school owners are intelligent enough to start asking those questions, and maybe, and I don't mean intelligent as in you're stupid. I just mean aware enough to ask those questions, but maybe not. Maybe you've never heard of, thinking of those things either.
Yeah. And it's interesting. I shoot guns, and when I've trained with, Army Rangers, Navy SEALs, SWAT teams. One time I'm not, shooting my rifle, and I'm right eye dominant, right? So I can't really shut my left eye really well to shoot. So this one Army Ranger is helping me, and he's like, Allie, what's your problem? I'm left eye dominant or whatever. He goes, so tilt your gun. I'm like, I'm allowed to do that? He's like, it doesn't matter as long as you're hitting the target, especially if you're a soldier, you're hitting the target down range and getting a good shot. You just tilt your gun. And the minute that one little thing, I was like, this is, you don't know what you don't know. And now I'm like, boom, and increase my thing. And there's another thing called a sear on a trigger. Another guy showed me about how you pull the trigger and everyone lets it go and repulls it, but you could click it back just a half a notch. And it's got that quick motion. He's like, and I didn't know about it. And he's like, yeah, just do this. And then I'm like, oh, my shooting got so much better. So I would have not known that. I wasn't searching it. I didn't know about my grip and how I should stand and posturing. So an expert showed me that. And I think that's the biggest problem is a lot of school owners just don't know. They open up a school and they say, I got to market. I got to do this. I got to do that. And they don't know in what steps to do it. And I think that's what's missing in this day and age, right?
Yeah, but the information's out there. I mean, there's enough information out there to find out what you need to be doing. I mean,
but does anyone really just spell it out? I don't think so. That's why I thought when I did my next level program month to month, that DNA was something that people followed religiously. They knew that at the end of the month, every single week, they'd have every box checked. And at the end of the month, they could go, I got it all done, because it selectively put it on for them. Now, I don't do that program anymore, and that was a very good system, but it was on Excel. I mean, I wish Spark would have it where you go, okay, today I should do this. And then you'd click on that, and it'd bring you to the missing in action calls, the new student maximizer, and so on. So,
well, and at some point they may put that in. I mean, I love how they take our considerations, and I don't mean ours solely, but I mean everybody, end users' considerations. All
the time. They're amazing. Best software ever, in my opinion. Best darn software, as they say. But you know what? Here, let me give a few quick things. So the main things for people to focus on: number one, new students; number two, existing students. And there might be 10 tasks in each one of these categories. Number three is upgrades to higher level programs, whether it be a black belt club, an elite program, a SWAT team, a leadership team. Number four, a school should focus on special events throughout the year. So even if you're only going to do 4 for your little kids and 4 for your adults, that's 8 events that you might make $700, $1,000. That's an extra $8,000 a year. That could pay for a condo in Florida, or that could take you on a lavish vacation with your family if you would just focus on those events quarterly. And they should be at different times. Adults are different than kids. The next thing and I have to tell you, I still have clients to this day, ignore this.
Retail.
You know what I'm going to say, ignore this like it was the plague, right? Now, it's retail. You said it. And you know what's funny? I am still retailing. I've sold $1,200 this month in T-shirts alone, just because I have tank tops, cutoffs, and a cutoff T-shirt and regular T-shirts that you wear. They have to wear them under their uniform. But I did this sale. I got $5,000. I invested in a whole hundreds and hundreds of shirts and sweatpants. And I've sold this month alone 1,000 of them. I've made literally a fifth of my money back. And I still have a massive amount of inventory. So that's stuff that people ignore. I sell sparring gear on a day-to-day basis, weaponry on a day-to-day basis. Why schools ignore this, I have no idea. And some of them don't even have retail. They don't even sell drinks. They don't even have, bars in case somebody comes in and they hadn't been able to eat all day. They could eat a quick Lara bar or something like that. There's so many things that we could be doing. to boost income in our school and supply the clients with something that they need, right? So retail's number 5. 6 is, if you want to do this, and I don't recommend it for hardly anyone, is pay in fulls and compression payments. So meaning like a pay in full, they pay for the whole year in advance. A compression payment, they pay their last half of the membership at a slight discount. So let's say they owe you $600. You call them up and say, hey, if you want to pay on your card today, I could give it to you for $550. They save $50, you get a chunk of money coming in. So that it's called a compression payment, bunch into one. The last thing is outside programs, right? That's 7, my 7 steps to income. And there's so much out there. Like I have a friend who just got a seminar teaching martial arts in a corporate environment. And he followed my one thing to do. And they said, well, what do you charge? And he said, well, what's your budget? Yeah. And they said, get this. They said $3,000. Could you do it for $3,000? He said, yeah, I guess. Meanwhile, he was probably going to do it for free. Right. Maybe $100 he would have took. And they said $3,000. He's like, in his head, he's going, holy crap, you just made me $3,000. I would have done it for free just to get exposure. So those outside programs could make you a ton of money. Real estates, corporate environments, whatever, seminars, going to a school even and asking if they have a budget. So those are the 7 steps that every day, and there's multiple levels within each of those that you could be focusing on, right? So there's just some of the ideas right there.
Yeah, and that's a plethora, right?
Right.
I mean, that just an amazing amount of, and I did that same thing. I had the community college here in town. They contacted me, wanted me to do like 6 half-an-hour seminars. Right. And I did the exact same thing. I said, oh yeah, I'd love to do it. And I said, I just want to be aware of, of what your budget is, what you budgeted for this event, so if I could ask, what have you budgeted for this event? And then I can tell you whether I can do it or not. Right. And then they came back and they said, well, we really, we budgeted $1,500 for it. And I said, yeah, I said, I think I can do it for $1,500. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. And you probably, right, back in the day, I've done it, you've done it, we do it for free. Oh, absolutely free. And we would beg them just to allow them to let us hand out pencils with our number on it, because they wouldn't let us hand out flyers, or we'd give them shirts or whatever the case may be, passes if they would allow it. But that's the same thing when I did the program for the school. We didn't do it last year because of COVID, but the year before we had done it like 5 years straight. But I did the same thing. I like, what is your budget? Right. And we made some good money with the school. Right. I don't remember now, but it was like a 9-week program when we probably made, golly, I don't know, maybe 4,000, 5,000. That's great. Like, yeah. I know. And that's where, if at least we know these 7 steps to income, that you have those 7, people could go back and listen to this. They have an idea. And if they want to drum it down a little and get into a little bit more detail, if anyone wants, I'd be more than happy to share my DNA spreadsheet with everybody, and just send you over the Excel spreadsheet. And then you can see it, and it has everything. And, like I've said, and I've joked with Ron Sell of Spark, I said, I would swear that Spark stole my DNA. But I know any good player, any good school owner, anybody who's successful would be doing 99.9% of the things that I was doing on my DNA. So Spark is a living result of what a good school owner knows what needs to be done and how to do it. And now they crowdsource, like if someone says, hey, it'd be nice if I could do this, and the owner probably would send it to his tech team and say, this probably would really help our people. And then they do it. So Spark, I know I keep saying Spark, they are one of our sponsors, but it makes your life so easy. Like it made me more motivated to be a teacher too. I know this is weird to say, but I mean, the software gave me much more connection with my people, availability to my numbers, to get, my delinquency rate is like maybe 1%, if that. Right. When I had a billing company, my delinquency rate was like 7 to 8%. With Spark, it's personal with the people. They know that if they don't pay, I know it's happening. With a billing company, like, he won't find out, and then I'll have it paid by the time he finds out. And it's the billing company's problem, not mine. Right now, they
they'll send me a message and say, oh, I'm really sorry. I put that new card in immediately. I apologize. So there's so many great things going on with it. It's amazing to me.
Yep. No, I totally agree. So, one, to recap, we're not turning down the book, but we're just saying, be aware that it is a very clinical, creamy book.
Right.
So,
Definitely.
yeah. Secondly, is if you haven't gone back and read some of the other books that we read, I would encourage you to get the Who Not How book. So,
such a good book.
Yeah, except for the first chapter, right? I mean, I enjoyed it, but
it started slow. It was like Dr. Seuss, who not how, but who, the who
yes.
not the who's. But
and then Upstream was good.
I love that book. You didn't love it as much as I did, but
I liked it. I liked it. It was a like it, not a love it.
And you know what I liked just quickly on Upstream, real quick, was that it makes you think about solving the solution before it happens, right? So if you're having a problem, Upstream is like, let's look upstream to see why that's happening, and let's fix it now so it doesn't happen in the future. And a lot of times we're always fixing things on the fly and putting that fire out now. Well, let's put in something in place where we don't have fires.
Yep.
Right?
The other book we did, phenomenal book, Atomic Habits.
So good.
I think this is honestly for me a once a year read. Like I really think that's that good.
And I liked that. And I looked at that book the entire time when I read that book. I read it from an instructor's perspective. Like I didn't even think about business the entire time. Everything that book talked about, I said, that's how I'm going to make my students bow every single time they come in the door because they forget. So now I have an instructor taking temperature at the door and going, on that mat, you bow when you enter, right? Oh, now it's becoming more and more. I even have kids, if no one's at that door, they run there and then they remember and run back and bow. So creating habits was a big deal, even in teaching, like, good habits like you do with your health coaching, right? Mm-hmm. 90% of that is good. In fact, I just had breakfast today. I said to the waitress, when you bring my breakfast, make sure you bring the potatoes, a full order of potatoes, and my quesadilla, which is a vegan quesadilla. Bring me the take-home tray. And I immediately divided it in two. I brought the half down home to my daughter, and the other half I ate. And that was a great tip for me eating out, because you always get way more food than you should have. And that was something that you taught me through your diet.
Yep. Yeah. So I would like to propose this to be the next book.
I'm hoping it's good. Let me see. I don't see it. All right.
So who's your ideal team player?
Okay. All right.
I'd like to propose that.
All right. I'll take the challenge. I picked the Upstream. You picked this one. It's really supposed to be my choice for the month.
Oh, do you want to choose?
Nah, I'm only kidding. We'll do that one, your book, and then I'll do the following month. But don't buy it from me, because you always buy me a book and send it to me. And the reason why I say that is because I can't read a real book at night, because Nicole's asleep and I wake up at 2 a.m. I read for like an hour. So I have my phone. I read it on my telephone, so I can do it in the dark with my glasses on. So I'll buy the book via a digital book of it. So
okay.
So what was the name of it again?
The Ideal Team Player.
The Ideal Team Player. Okay, cool. And if the people want to read with us, that'd be awesome. If they're listeners of our podcast, please buy the book and read with us, and then we could discuss it in a month's time and go over it. So at the end of June, we'll be doing this book, and we'll discuss it in the 1st of July or whatever it is.
Yep. Sounds good. Well, Allie, thanks for your time, sir.
Yeah, always, Dwayne. Great seeing you. Have an awesome day. And everybody who's listening, great being with you, and we hope to see you soon. Oh, by the way, you're going to play the outro, right, with all our podcasts?
Oh, yeah.
Another episode of Martial Arts School Owner Talk Podcast. This would not be possible if it weren't for the support of our amazing sponsors. Please check out EliteInsights.com for all your website needs. LeadHunterMedia.com, your online digital marketer and content provider. Academy Kings BJJ Growth Consulting and Management at GrowMyAcademy.com. SparkMembership.com, the best darn software for school owner manager on the planet. GetKarateStudents.com, a martial arts growth consulting company for all your school systems. We will see you next time.